Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of the Word of the Day podcast. My name is Jamie Silva. I am your host, and I'm delighted to be back behind the mic once again, pleasantly explaining another useful word to you all. And here to help me do so, please welcome to the program, making her first appearance, yet another talented voice actor, Laurel. Laurel, thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, Jamie. It's truly a pleasure to be here.
Now, longtime listeners to this program might hear Laurel's voice just now and think, wait a second. Haven't I heard that exact voice before in episode 85 on the word apropos? Well, if you thought this, you would be wrong. Paige and Laurel are actually totally different people with totally different voices. For example, look, we actually have Paige right here with us in the studio right now. Paige, you want to say hello to the folks?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. It's me, Paige.
Very good. And Laurel, could you also say hello again?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. It's me, Laurel.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm just really not sure why people would get you two mixed up. I mean, your vocal deliveries are just... they're so distinct.
You're so right. No, yeah, I can't imagine anyone getting us completely confused. Different voices. Absolutely not identical at all.
Awesome. Well, thank you both again for setting the record straight on that one. And Paige, thanks for stopping by the studio.
Oh, sorry. This is Laurel. Yeah, that's Laurel. I'm Paige.
Oh, yeah, no, I knew that. I was just testing you.
Testing whether we could tell ourselves apart? Kind of weird.
Well, sure. I mean, why not? You two could be having like an identity crisis or something. I don't know.
Why would you think that? I feel like that's kind of offensive to twins. Sorry to interrupt you, Paige, but I was literally going to say that exact thing.
Well, like I was saying, thank you so much for stopping by, Paige. You can go now. Thank you. Bye. Okay. So, Laurel?
Yes?
Okay, it is you. Okay, good. Time to get down to business. Today's word, folks, is the adjective impolitic, which I would define as imprudent or unwise, likely because it upsets or offends someone who you need to be on your side, or be on good terms with, or who you rely on in some fashion.
The Google definition is much broader than yours. It goes as follows: failing to possess or display prudence, unwise, unquote. What do you think about this?
Well, I can't definitively say this is incorrect, but it sure doesn't match how I've heard the word used. Like I would say many things are unwise, but only a much smaller subset of unwise things are impolitic.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Merriam-Webster can probably help us out here with their definition of politic, which is just the opposite of impolitic.
Not that anyone says politic, which is honestly fine with me, because if you did say it, people would just think you're trying to say politics, and they'd be confused.
Sure. But folks, as you hear the definition of politic, just remember that impolitic is the reverse. So politic, per Merriam-Webster, means shrewdly tactful. Okay, this'll take a little unpacking. Tactful. We all know what this means, right? Like possessing the quality of tact. And tact, in turn, means, quote, adroitness and sensitivity in dealing with others or with difficult issues, unquote.
Hey, well, how about that? Adroit shows up in this definition right after we covered it in our last episode. Anyway, so to simplify here, if you are a tactful sort of person, that indicates that you're pretty polite and you know how to handle yourself in society.
And then what about the other half of this definition? Well, Merriam-Webster has this for shrewd, quote, marked by clever, discerning awareness and hard-headed acumen, unquote. And acumen just means astuteness, perceptiveness, or perspicacity, a word which you highlighted in episode 56, if I'm not mistaken.
You are most certainly not mistaken. We did do that. So now with shrewd, I think the idea is that you're smart, you're practical, and importantly, you're looking out for number one, right? You're acting, perhaps stubbornly, in your own best interests. And that's where the hard-headed part comes in, I would say.
So let's tie this all together. And sorry to hurl so many definitions at you right out of the gate, but to be shrewdly tactful means to be polite and to conduct yourself properly, but with an eye towards your own advantage and your own interests.
Yes, and a huge part of being shrewdly tactful, in my mind, is staying in the good graces of those who you benefit from getting along with. It's really about not biting the hand that feeds you. There are a lot of parallels here to the second episode on Ingratiate, episode number 102, the one that's just a conversation between myself and the guest, Jenny Wood. But so the reason for those parallels is that Both these words, impolitic and ingratiate, have to do with trying to get along with people, whether you feel like doing so or not.
Okay, enough theory. Let's see what impolitic actually looks like in the real world. By way of example, it would be very impolitic of me to start saying disparaging things about you, the listeners to this show.
Yeah, please don't.
No, of course not. I would never, because obviously I want them to listen. And if I make them angry, they won't listen anymore. And by the same token, it's impolitic for any business to upset their customers, because that's who their revenue comes from. The corporate cliche that the customer is always right is based on this idea. Because, obviously, the customer is not always right. They're actually wrong all the time. But nonetheless, it behooves businesses to pretend that the customer is right, because doing this will probably keep the customers happy and therefore keep them around as customers.
Here, I want to go on sort of a historical, cultural tangent that I promise will eventually wind back to impolitic and hopefully will be very interesting along the way. Is that fine, Laurel? Do you mind?
Dude, don't look at me. It's your show. Do whatever you want.
Laurel, that was so...
Impolitic of me?
Oh my gosh, yes. Because, I'm the host and you're the guest. And if you're rude, then I might not invite you back on.
That's exactly correct. Super impolitic of me.
Wow, how clever.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I don't usually thank people for being rude to me, but definitely, yeah, thanks so much.
It was fully my pleasure.
Well, that's not... Yeah, okay. The historical tangent I want to go on is a discussion of customer service in the Soviet Union, which was globally renowned for being terrible, insofar as it could be said to exist at all. Here's a description of what to expect in a Soviet restaurant from a 1997 book by Mikhail Ivanov entitled Survival Russian, an insider's guide to words, phrases, idioms, and customs you need to survive and thrive in Russia.
Long title.
I know. You want to read the...
Oh, yeah, sure. The following is edited and occasionally paraphrased for conciseness and clarity. Quote, waiters were notorious for their boorishness, which basically means rudeness or incivility. Not only did the waiters not smile at you, they often cheated the customer by altering the bill or watering down his beverage or serving a smaller portion of meat than the one listed on the menu and using the rest to replenish their supposedly meager stocks of food at home. Veteran travelers to Soviet Russia will also remember the ill-fated doorman who would let you negotiate the infamous, "Sorry, we're full" signs in exchange for a few rubles.
And Jamie here. This means that they would pretend that the restaurant had no tables available until you bribed them, and only then could you get in. Super sketchy.
For sure. All right, let's continue. Quote, the way to overcome this and many other obstacles was by buttering up the staff. Anyone with a friend among the waiters had a key, which could open many doors. Anyone who didn't hold that key had to accept a famous maxim, interpreted the Soviet way. The customer is always wrong, unquote.
I see what they did there. Now, this was not just an impression held by visitors to the USSR. Locals noticed and complained as well, and authorities occasionally tried to address it. Here's an Associated Press account from July 20th, 1977, headlined, Soviet Union takes hard look at surly waiters, long lines. Quote, a decree published Tuesday in the official Soviet Communist newspaper called for new steps to deal with, quote, serious deficiencies, unquote, at stores, restaurants, and other service establishments. In a mild reference to the frequently impatient and slipshod service at Soviet retail stores, the document observed that there exist problems of, quote, lack of attention and disrespect toward the customer, unquote, and, unquote, for the full newspaper quote.
A sequel to this account, as recounted by one Mark Perry, an economist, is a little anecdote about the transition away from this very surly approach to customer service once the Soviet Union fell and private enterprise started establishing a larger foothold there. Quote, when McDonald's opened its first restaurant in the Soviet Union in 1990, it went through an extensive training program for its new workers. Of course, customer service, which was a brand new concept for the Soviets, was extensively emphasized for the new McDonald's employees. After several days of training, a young Soviet teenager asked the McDonald's trainer a very serious question. Why do we have to be so nice to the customers? After all, we have the hamburgers, and they don't, unquote. You can learn more about the McDonald's in Russia story by listening to a great episode from the podcast Invisibilia entitled The New Norm, We'll drop a link to that in the show notes.
And finally, for a first-person account of the contemporary Russian restaurant experience and smiling experience, here's a clip sent to us by Sophia, a friend of the show, who actually contributed the Russian version of the saying, "You can't have your cake and eat it too," from episode 88.
From my experience in the post-Soviet world, they think that if you smile, even to this day, if you smile, that you are either mentally disturbed and or more likely you're plotting something that you know about and no one else does. Fun fact, when I was in Russia, if I just wanted to smile because I was an American and I felt like being happy for once, and I wanted to make myself happy, or I wanted to just like remember what it was like to smile, I knew I couldn't do it just like on my own walking by myself. So I would put my phone to my face and pretend to have a conversation with someone and pretend to laugh at something that they said, just so that I could feel what a smile was like again. That maybe, I don't know if that was dark or not. Anyway, customer service in restaurants especially, if you want a waiter or waitress's attention, because they will not come to your table if they do not absolutely have to. Like if you don't call them, they will not approach you. They won't serve you. They won't ask you if you need anything. They'll do nothing. If you want someone to come over, if it's a girl, you yell "девушка" like really aggressively, which just means girl. And if you need a waiter and it's a man, you have to say "молодой человек," which just means young man. But you don't say, "come here." You don't say, "can you please help me with something?" You just say their gender, and then you look at them coldly, and then they'll come to you. And then you just take care of business. I also have an extra theory about smiling in the USSR, along with the fact that it was seen as like a Western trait to smile, and you shouldn't trust someone like that. I also strongly believe that it's from, like you could be turned in by your own family members, by your neighbors, whatever, and the walls had ears, and you're always being secretive. You don't know who you can trust. Even the people who are closest to you, the people you love, you will send you to the gulag in a heartbeat. So I feel like they got used to not smiling also out of fear and distrust for like anybody. But one of my proudest moments is when I got Russians to like smile and laugh at something that I said for the first time. Like when I did it on purpose. Sometimes they laugh at you because you don't know what you're doing. But when I did it on purpose and then they laughed also as a result of my purposeful endeavor, I was thrilled.
Well, that is compelling stuff all around. Thank you so much, Sophia.
This is all very interesting, Jamie, but why this diversion into Soviet customer service norms?
Good question, Laurel, and here's why. So one reason is that I just find it really interesting as a matter of economics, which is closely related to my actual job in the financial industry. More importantly, though, the question of why do we have to be nice to the customers when we're the ones with the hamburgers is an excellent one, and it gets right to the heart of today's word, impolitic. So why indeed be nice to the people without the hamburgers? Well, in a centralized command communist economy where the government controls most aspects of economic life, companies typically survive not by pleasing the customer or by earning profits, but by pleasing the government. Hence, it doesn't matter if the customer is happy. And if they want hamburgers, then they better be awfully nice to the staff, who are likely employed by the state, because basically all workers would be. Remember, we're talking about communism here. In this scenario, then, it is not impolitic to anger the customer.
But it would be very impolitic to anger whatever local government officials control their ability to operate the restaurant, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because these officials, and once again, not the customers, they are the ones with the power. Conversely, in a competitive market economy, the companies may have the hamburgers or other goods and services, but it's the consumers who have the power to shop somewhere else or leave a bad review, or who knows, start a boycott or start picketing, using perhaps Insta-pickets, which we proudly advertised on episode 10. Anyway, so because of this power that consumers have, it is exceedingly impolitic for a business to get on their bad side.
Well, okay, but I sure don't always feel like I have the power as a consumer.
Oh, you have more than you think. Answer me this, Laurel. If you patronize, which in this context basically means shop at, if you patronize a business that treats you poorly or where you feel powerless and not cared for, do you keep shopping there?
Well, no. No, I don't.
I rest my case.
No, but what about monopolies and corporate consolidation and big tech and Citizens United and everything. Like, that sure seems like a lot of corporate power to me.
Whoa. Laurel, look, I'm sorry. We don't solve those problems on this show, right? We just talk about words. That's really all.
Yeah, sure. I get that. And I see what you're saying. In society, commerce is arguably one of the biggest motivators of politeness and courtesy between people who wouldn't, or maybe don't, otherwise know each other. Not necessarily sincere or willing politeness, of course, but politeness all the same.
That's exactly correct. I mean, think about it. Unless you're just innately cheerful, in which case, good for you, being nice to people often takes effort. It takes thought and care. If it's your family or friends we're talking about, you'll probably take the trouble, at least most of the time. But what about for just random people out there? Is being nice to them worth it? Well, if your job or salary depend on it, it sure is.
And it kind of does depend on it to an extent. It's not like you have to greet your coworkers with a wide smile and warm hug every morning.
And HR would probably get in touch with you pretty quick if you did.
So I'm talking more about the basic norms of politeness and sociability that are the foundation of professionalism in most jobs. And if you violate those norms, say by shouting at the customers, picking fights with coworkers, or openly insulting your manager, you will probably be out of a job right quick. Consequently, no matter how grumpy you may be and how much people might deserve it, because they really do deserve it sometimes, you have an incentive to be nice to them anyway and not do anything impolitic.
It's like I always say, Laurel, people in life practice 3 things more than anything else. Pretending to like people, pretending to be good at things, and pretending everything is okay.
That is truly depressing. I hope you don't say that too often.
Oh, maybe just sometimes? I try not to think about it. But speaking of depressing, I have one more thing to say about the Soviet Union. One of the reasons that it was a big deal to train McDonald's employees in Moscow to do stuff like smile at the customers and ask if they wanted onions on that is that, how do I put this? The Soviets, and even today, Russians, they're not the most smiley people.
Yeah, one might even say that smiling at people who aren't friends and family is typically frowned upon in this culture.
One might say that, Laurel?
I might. Look, there's even a Russian proverb that goes, "A smile without reason is a sign of idiocy." Now, this doesn't mean that Russians are universally unhappy or that they're misanthropic, which that's episode 17. Far from it. Just the norms for facial expressions are very different there. You gotta have a really solid reason to smile, and it has to be totally sincere.
To quote from an article by a professor of philology, aka language, at a Russian university, in Russian communication, in order to have a right to smile, which weird concept, one must truly have positive feelings toward the other person, or at the given moment, to be in a truly exceptional mood. Hence, you would never smile and nod at someone that you didn't know, just on the street or maybe in a store. That would be just weird and perturbing.
Right. It's like, why would you smile at me? Life is hard. It's super cold here. We're not friends, and only an idiot would pretend otherwise. And communist propaganda in Soviet days really leaned into this. In the Soviet Union, smiling was portrayed as a hallmark of the sinister, conniving American capitalist who, if they weren't a fool, were almost certainly trying to trick you, to rip you off, or to hornswoggle you in some way.
Speaking of which, I hope nobody feels hornswoggled by the fact that we're actually going to end the show right here and save part 2 of Impolitic for the next episode.
What? Really? That doesn't sound like very good customer service. What are your listeners going to say?
Does it matter? Let me put it this way. I have the fun and interesting words, and they don't.
Oh, I didn't know I was a guest on the Soviet Word of the Day podcast.
No, that's not
What's the word today, comrade? Bourgeois?
No, hey, that's actually not bad. Bourgeois is a pretty interesting concept. I think we could probably explore some aspects of how...
I look forward to reading headlines like Soviet language podcast takes hard look at surly host, disgruntled listeners.
Look, folks, we do care about you, the listeners. And really, it's because we care about you that we don't want to do this whole entire show in one go. I mean, it's already going to be 20 minutes long. And this is just not a 20-minute show kind of podcast. We try to be concise and snappy and fun size. So I'm going to just post this one as is, and Laurel and I will reconvene later and discuss the rest of the fascinating facets of Impolitic in our next episode. In the meantime, then, this is Jamie Silva, your host, bidding you a very fond non-Soviet farewell. Like I don't know if you can tell, but I'm actually smiling right now as I say goodbye. And yeah, we hope you have a great, and we hope you don't do anything too impolitic before we return.